This is a CBS 4 News update.
Good morning, I'm Maribel Rodriguez. Crews are expected back in Coconut Grove today where an explosive emergency forced hundreds out of their homes. Last night, Miami Fire Rescue replaced a faulty valve to burn off the gas in a tank and determined that the underground propane tank was safe. It was a broken valve that released propane into the air at around Southwest 27th Avenue and Shipping Avenue. Miami Fire crews will be back on the scene to make sure a contractor removes any trace amounts of gas and then fills the tank with water until the property owner has it replaced. Hollywood police have released a picture of the man they say killed his girlfriend. Detectives say Carnelli Jr. is on the run. Police say he got into a fight with Coretta Bain at her apartment early yesterday morning on Washington Street. That's when they say he shot her, killing the mother of three. Police believe the suspect took off in her car, a black Nissan Maxima. If you see Carnelli Jr., you should not approach him, but call police right away. A murder suspect who was released by mistake from the Broward County Jail has been caught. There's been a nationwide search for 28-year-old Eric Vale since May 30th. When Vale was released, BSO blamed the mistake on the state attorney's office, claiming it was told prosecutors had dismissed Vale's charges. He was tracked down last night in a remote area of southeastern Georgia and arrested after a 3-hour standoff with authorities. A wounded pit bull is recovering after someone found him wandering around with very deep wounds, and we do want to warn you, the video may be graphic to some viewers. Adonis is undergoing extensive treatment at the Lauderdale Veterinary Specialist Emergency Hospital. Vets believe his burns come from fireworks.
I believe deliberately somebody took fireworks, either strapped them or threw them at him, and it was a fun game for them, and that's my belief.
And despite that, his tail keeps wagging, and he is very happy when someone shows him kindness. And TLC, medical bills are expected to be very costly for Adonis. If you'd like to help, we do have a link on our website where you can donate, CBSMiami.com.
Now, CBS 4 weather.
Hey there, South Florida. So storms developed this morning around 8 o'clock, impacting the lower and middle Keys. And then you see a lot of action heading out east towards Bimini and the Bahamas. Well, all of that is moving from south to north as the flow remains like that because of the position of the tropical disturbance. The 8 a.m. advisory still keeps it as a depression, or rather as a disturbance, but expected to become a depression later on today, even a tropical storm, which will be named Barry, and that could happen by late tonight, if not earlier than that. Now, as far as the tropical moisture for us, it's going to linger today and tomorrow, but the bulk of it, of course, is associated with the tropical system that's headed into the Gulf Coast. For us, a patch of drier air does return for the weekend, and that's going to lower the rain chances. Most likely by Saturday and Sunday, we're expecting showers to happen mainly overnight and in the morning, while the storms that do develop in the afternoon will be further towards the west coast of Florida. Now let's take a closer look at what is going to eventually be a tropical depression, then a tropical storm, and perhaps even a hurricane, the first one of the season. So it's still moving over the northern waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Again, this is the 8 a.m. advisory, maximum sustained winds at 35 miles per hour. Actually, those winds increasing slightly. Now, it's still going to be a disturbance, but eventually it's gaining strength and organization. And it is expected to become a Category 1 hurricane early Saturday morning, entering the lower Mississippi Valley in Louisiana by Saturday and through the upcoming days, heading northward parallel to the Mississippi River. Big rain event. Hurricane watches are already put into effect. This includes the coastal areas of Louisiana. Back here at home, boaters, keep an eye on the sky because we do expect those storms. Otherwise, no advisories. The Bay's at a light chop today. Highs today, 92 degrees with those spotty thunderstorms through the afternoon. By this evening, should be drier, but overnight straight showers. Maybe a storm, warm and muggy, and temperatures staying in the lower 90s, a little drier by the weekend.
Jen, thanks. And that's the news for now. You can always find us on CBSMiami.com and tune into CBS 4 News at 5, 6, 7, and 11 for all today's important headlines.